Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Dodge this.
New year, new me, new camera, new season of the Holy Moment Podcast. Welcome, folks. Welcome to the podcast where we watch movies with you and discuss the moments that work, the moments that don't, and the moments that reflect truth in unexpected ways. How was your New Year's, Nathaniel? How are you feeling coming into 2026?
You know, Jeffrey, I greatly enjoyed my Christmas of 2025. There was cocoa and gifts, and we went to Florida, and we're swimming in the ocean like 2 days after Christmas. But you know what December didn't have nearly enough of?
The Holy Moment Podcast.
The Holy Moment Podcast and watching movies. I terribly missed it. We recorded a bunch of episodes at the beginning of December, and then we released like old episodes at the second half. We haven't sat down and recorded an episode in like a month. It's like the longest I've ever gone without doing the podcast in like a year. So I terribly missed it, and I'm so happy to be back. So my 2026 is going stupendously. Stupendously. There we go.
Stupendously. Likewise, Nathaniel, I've been suffering withdrawal symptoms. I've had to attend a Podcasters Anonymous session weekly at my local church. It doesn't help all that much, but I mean, it's good to be doing something, I guess. But now that we're back, I can go here instead. So
You can just get your fix, instead of going to Alcohol Anonymous, I could just drink alcohol in my closet. It's perfect.
Exactly.
I'm not a big drinker, but I do want to get into I think it could be nice. Like watch a movie. Granted, I watch more than one movie a week, so I won't do it every night, but maybe in the weekends. Watch a movie and drink a beer or a cider or something. I feel like it'd just be enjoyable.
I feel that. Except I feel a nice movie and a dirty martini.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't like martinis? Have you tried a martini?
No, I'm not a big strong alcohol person. I like beer, I like sweeter drinks, and I like ciders, but I'm not I don't like gin, whiskey, bourbon, rum. Not a big fan.
Well, would you like gin and vermouth mixed with olive juice?
That sounds disgusting. If it was your dirty martini, Jeffrey, I would drink it. Otherwise, no.
All right, I'll make you a dirty martini someday, and you will enjoy it. I hope, but we'll see, I suppose. Anyhow, folks, this is the first episode of our new season, season 4. Can you believe that we've done 4 seasons?
Yeah, now that's crazy. That's starting to seem like a lot. When we hit season 5, so we need to make the seasons longer. It need to be one season every 6 months instead of every 4 months. We're growing up too fast.
That's true. That's a good idea. We'll discuss it in our next podcast meeting. But anyhow, we've already spent too long talking without even mentioning the movie of the hour, which it is a very good movie for the new year and for the start of our 4th season, given that it's When Harry Met Sally. It ends on New Year's Day.
The funny thing is Jeffrey told me that because when we were trying to decide what movie do we want to kick off the new season with, and he mentioned, this movie ends on New Year's Day. I was like, oh, great, perfect. Well, I haven't seen the movie, so I was watching it, and we're about halfway through, and they're at a New Year's Eve party. And I was like, I don't think this movie can end right now. Nothing's really been resolved. And then I realized there was another New Year's Eve party. So you're not a liar.
I mean, that's one thing I like about the movie is that it takes its time and it takes place over time, right? I feel like a lot of these rom-coms, you watch them, they take place within the span of a week, and then they're all madly in love. One of my favorite rom-coms, which also happens to fall prey to this, is While You Were Sleeping, which girl accidentally knocks out the love of her life, or rather some dude she finds attractive at a train platform. The family thinks that she is his fiance due to some silly circumstances. And then by the end of the week, she's married to his brother.
Oh, I do not know of that one.
I mean, it's a lot better than I've made it sound, right?
Wait a minute. What was the one we watched with you? Also, guys, so sorry. Not great start to season 4. We're very off topic, but that's okay. Why else would you be listening to the podcast if not random other film tangents? What's the one we watched in Pigeon Forge with Yumi, Corinne, and Merritt 2 years ago? It's that similar. I think it might be that movie.
Yeah, it is While You Were Sleeping.
It is While You Were Sleeping?
Because she works at the train platform. And
is that Meg? Who was the lead actress?
That was Sandra Bullock.
Okay, yeah, that seems right. And who was the love interest?
The love interest was I don't know his name, but I think he was the antagonist or an antagonist in Sleepless in Seattle, which I have not seen.
You haven't? Wow, a movie Jeffrey hasn't seen, but I have. I love Sleepless in Seattle. That's a good one. I love Tom Hanks. I love Seattle. I love Meg Ryan. So what else could you want?
I mean, that'll be an interesting thing to talk about. Is just what's our experience with rom-coms in general, and how do they all depict love, and which one does it best?
All I know is if it has Tom Hanks or Meg Ryan, I don't really care how bad it is. I'm gonna at least enjoy it to some degree. And this movie had at least Meg Ryan in it. So
Yeah. You Got Mail. Did that have Meg Ryan or was that someone else?
Tom Hanks,
Tom Hanks.
but I don't think it was. I was just looking.
Might
at
have been
this.
Nicole Kidman.
That it might have been. It wasn't. It wasn't Meg Ryan. I'm pretty sure. But fun fact: Tom Hanks was auditioned for this movie, but he turned it down for one reason or another.
I am glad that Billy Crystal got this role.
I'm glad it wasn't Tom Hanks because I love Tom Hanks and I don't want to hate Tom Hanks when he plays Harry. And Billy Crystal was real hateable, so I'm happy it was him.
I don't know. I think there's real development, right? He's a piece of work at the beginning of the movie, and you can argue that like he stays a piece of work in a sense, or that piece of work is always in him, right? If not awake, then lying dormant. But he has a greater reign over the beast at the end, you know?
He's less emo kid who reads the last page of a book because you don't know when you're gonna die. Little cringy.
That was the point, I think, is like
Yeah,
they're
I
stupid
agree.
kids, and he thinks he knows everything, and then he gets married, and then he gets a divorce because he doesn't know everything. He thinks he knows women, and he's figuring it out in part from this relationship with Sally, who is a good foil to him, right? Where she is diametrically opposed on a lot of these tendencies of his ideologically, but she's also willing to push back on him. And so I don't know. I think that they're good scene partners.
Regardless of if you thought they should be together or not, I thought they had great acting chemistry and it was really well written. Now, do I think the chemistry that was actually on the chemistry that was meant to be portrayed, which they portrayed well. So that's what I mean by they have good chemistry as actors. Like they did what they were supposed to do well. But the chemistry they were meant to come across, I think can be a little duplicitous and not as innocent as it seems. But I don't know if I want to jump in with like one of my big gripes about the movie. I think season 4 is positive Nathaniel. He wants to look at the best in the movies. And I'll talk about my gripes later on. But I want to first give glory where glory is due for the parts that were really good.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I guess no, there's no better place to start than the beginning. We begin with Harry and Sally, right? They're at the University of Chicago, I believe. We don't have to do a play-by-play. Sally essentially gives Harry a 16-hour drive to New York. They're both going there together. And there is instant friction. Harry's just a dick, right? Pretentious dick, who is a bit of a womanizer and doesn't really care about, I guess, fidelity to his girlfriend that he's leaving behind. And he is a bit of a cynic, a bit of a nihilist, a bit of a know-it-all, right? Whereas Sally, she's a little more naive, I guess, a little more optimistic, idealistic, very particular, right? She knows what she wants, and she is not afraid to ask for it. Whereas Harry is more, go with the flow. But by the end of this 16-hour drive, right, they've had just about enough of each other, and they part ways forever, that they think and hope. How was that like for a beginning?
I have to say, my suspension of disbelief can be suspended quite a bit. I can believe many things. We're on distant planets and distant moons and different galaxies, that deep magic exists. I can believe in all these things with my suspension of disbelief. You know what I can't believe in, Jeffrey?
What?
I cannot believe in giving my mediocre friend's boyfriend, who I've never met, a 16-hour drive while in college. Can you imagine? You're going to Christmas break. Guys, we graduated like 3 years ago. So college was not too long ago. Imagine if like not someone like a decent friend, not like your best friend, but like a mediocre friend was like, will you drive my boyfriend who you've never met or girlfriend 16 hours with you? No, sir. I would tell that person, nope.
I I mean, yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that. That is a very big commitment for someone that you don't know very well at all. It's just a different world that they were living in. They didn't
They
have
didn't have
like,
phones.
yeah, they didn't have smartphones or texting, and um, uh, I have to imagine it's a lot easier to organize something like that with someone you know, when they're at the touch of a finger, right? But I also get the feeling that people were more trusting back then, just in general, right? Kids were playing out in and around the neighborhoods without parental supervision a lot more frequently than we see nowadays. Everyone's held very close to the chest, and
I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about it from a female's perspective of taking this random dude 16 hours with you. Could be sketchy. But in all seriousness, I think they did a really good job of setting up the characterizations of our two leads, of Harry and Sally. Now, guys, the title of the movie is When Harry Met Sally. So you kind of think those are our two leads. But when Harry gets into that car, as soon as he gets the grapes and spits them at her window and is like, oh, sorry, I'll roll down the window, my bad. I was like, this can't be our love interest. Surely we're going to follow someone else because this guy sucks. So I really do think that Rob Reiner, the director, did a great job with setting up our characters and giving us a lot of dialogue that told us who they were, but more importantly, a lot of physical mannerizations. Like, again, when she's in the restaurant and she's very particular, like, she's very prim and proper, attractive, but she's very anal about things. She's very strong headed with her opinions. And then you have Harry. He's laid back. He's sitting there. I don't think he has a seatbelt on. He's just chewing his grapes, spitting them out. Nothing could rattle his crib, which is definitely a saying, at least it is now. And so I think that car ride sets up who these characters are and how they bounce off of each other in a really, really strong way. And I really appreciate that we get that diner scene because, again, it creates that motif throughout the movie where Sally is a very particular woman. She orders food and she wants the lettuce on the side. She wants the ketchup on the side. She doesn't want anything touching. So it sets up that motif, but it's more than just that motif. It gives us a break from just the car ride. It gives us a new location, a new fresh set of eyes on these characters in a new place to kind of get a feel for them. And I appreciate that. I feel like the director could have just done, a 3, 4, 5 minute car scene. But I like that they added that one stop. I think it added a whole lot to them. To be able to get out of the car and argue outside of the car with their physical bodies yelling at each other. And then, yeah, they get to Chicago and not Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole. Is that who it was?
Right. It was one of the crooners.
Who sings
Oh, no,
tomatoes
Louis Armstrong.
and potatoes.
Louis Armstrong.
Tomatoes and potatoes. Weird choice. I didn't.
No, I thought it was
I'm not-
perfect. It was the perfect song for that scene
I don't
because,
know.
one likes this thing, the other likes that thing.
I
One says this
guess.
thing, the other. I thought it was perfect, and I will not take any other statements to the contrary.
I just think it's funny that he's, and I don't know, people can slay me with a stone for saying this. I just think it's funny how famous he is for his voice. It's such an interesting voice, and I thought it made the scene really silly as he was singing potatoes, tomatoes. Again, much better than I'm singing, but it really stuck with me, I will say.
Oh, I mean, that's fair. And he does have a very distinctive voice, and I think it was sort of a silly ending point for them. It's like, yeah, I mean, neither of them particularly like each other, but they're recognizing, oh, I'm never going to see this person again. And so it's fine if I don't like them, right? You go that way, I'll go this way. The parting was awkward.
I will say that's something that I appreciate about the movie that I should have pegged earlier on. I kind of went into it thinking more romance drama. I appreciate it's very much a comedy. It's very much rom-com. And seeing it through that lens, it definitely makes it a lot funnier. The whole potatoes and tomatoes. But to answer your question, yeah, I think that opening scene with them in the car going from Chicago to New York was a good setup of their characters. And I really like the dialogue in this movie. I think it's very witty, it's very charming, and it's real. There's like some scenes we'll get later on where they're talking that I'm like, that just seems like a genuine conversation. Regardless of the acting, like they did a good job, Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, but like just the dialogue written, I was like, that's good. That's good writing.
Yeah, I mean, the actors and the writers really collaborated to make these characters feel real, right? They had real insecurities, they had real strengths, real flaws, and I didn't dislike them, right? I disliked Harry at the beginning, right? But as I got to know these characters and as I got to see them grow into themselves over time. It got to the point where I was like, oh, that's my buddy Harry, right? I love Harry. He's great. He does things that drive me up a wall, but I don't hate him, right? He's still my friend. And I feel that way about Sally too. Yeah, she does things that I find so frustrating, but that's my friend Sally for you. I believe in these people, and they're not one note. They're multifaceted.
Yeah, I appreciate that they're three-dimensional characters. And I think what made it a really enjoyable watch, that made it different than a lot of rom-coms, is the structure. I think it's really cool that we're meeting these characters throughout different portions of their lives. Granted, it's kind of like the same story. They're getting rejected by a man or a woman, or they're going on dates and everything's pointless. It's again about their love life. But I think it's really cool of like this idea of destiny, or maybe not in destiny, but randomness, and just you continue to meet the same person over and over again, but in different seasons of your life. I think made for a really strong structure for a rom com that I haven't seen before, and the way they played with time, I really liked because they had very obvious title cards where it'd be like 5 years later, 6 months later. Those were obvious, but once we got into like kind of the second act, kind of like moving, kind of getting the movie moving, they stopped being as obvious with the time, and things got a lot more fluid when Harry and Sally became friends. They never really told us how much time was going on. You would see them dating people, and then all of a sudden they weren't, and it wasn't explicit or said how much time had been, but it really reminded me of the Iron Claw, which we watched last season. And I kind of had that same comment as time is progressing. And every once in a while, someone will throw out like a date or like a time frame, but it really is just like, I mean, from one scene to another, it could have been a week, it could have been a year and a half. And I felt that with in this movie when Sally met Harry, or when Harry met Sally, and I appreciate that. I like the ambiguity of time. It made it more feel more lived in, because it wasn't just about the time. It was kind of about these characters and how they interacted.
Yeah, and it also made it so that the romance didn't feel overly rushed, right? It felt like a real development that could have happened with real people. They've known each other for forever, right? And they've had their ups and their downs, but they've gotten to this point where they're essentially best friends. And then something happens that sort of puts that old friendship in question, and then they figure it out in the end. And that's actually something that I find very interesting. First time I saw this, um, I heard that initial conversation they're having in the car, where Harry's like, men and women can't be friends, right? Because sex will always get in the way. And then I get to the end of the movie and they're together. And I think, oh, I guess the movie's siding with Harry. But having seen it a second time, I just feel like that's not quite it. Harry says, yeah, I mean, sex will always get in the way, guy and girl friendships, right? And Sally's like, no, that's not necessarily true. And what happens is Harry gets married, he gets a divorce, right? He comes to discover that I don't know everything about women. And she gets out of this relationship where she feels she's been strung along. She doesn't want the same things as her partner. And they bond over that, right? In a non-sexual way. And they become a real comfort to each other. And their friendship, it lasts years before they get to that point where they're together, right? But those years of friendship, uncomplicated by sex, right, were necessary and good in order for the relationship to take that further step. And if it hadn't, that would have been fine as well. But it is a necessary precursor. So I don't know. I just feel like it was saying different things than I thought it was saying when I first watched it.
It's it's the crux of the movie. This idea, it's a fun idea. It's one I've debated with many friends and before, of just like, can men and women truly, truly be friends? And then it gets even more dicier. Like once you get married, can you have female friends in a married relationship and vice versa? But something when you were talking that I realized, Harry in the beginning of the movie is saying like, men and women can't be friends because of sex. The sex will ruin it. Either they have sex and then everything falls apart, or the men always desire to have sex and therefore they don't have sex, but they just have to stop because that's what the men want. And I feel like, yes, they did end up having sex, so you could view it as, oh, Harry was right. But I actually think for two reasons he was wrong. And like you said, they were friends for a long time. And Harry even had a line when he's talking to his friend Jess, who was a guy, not a girl, just to set things straight, because that's a girl name. But he was like, yeah, I don't even want to have sex with this girl. I just like being her friend. So right there, he even admits there was a long period where I didn't view it as a sexual thing. And then secondly, the sex did ruin the relationship. They had sex and then it gets awkward, they get frustrated with each other. But it doesn't end the relationship. The thing that ultimately makes the relationship, because the movie's so much about sex. And I feel like they bring a point to it to be like, in Harry's opinion, that's the for lack of better words, pun, that's the climax. That's the point. That's the grand crescendo of a relationship, the sex. And Sally's very much like, no, it's an emotional thing. And at the end of the movie, they had sex, it makes it awkward, it makes it horrible, but what brings them together is them opening up, being honest, and being emotional with each other rather than a physical thing. So even though, yes, sex got in the way of their relationship, it was still saved and salvaged by the honesty and the intentionality of that conversation at the end of the movie. And so I think that kind of goes to disprove Harry at the beginning of the movie.
Absolutely. I mean, I think at the end, it's not just a sharing of emotions and I guess a mutual affection for one another. It's a trust that has been built over years, and the understanding that no matter what happens, I will be here for you, even though you do irritate me from time to time. When he's listing off like things that he loves about her, the last thing he mentions is, I love how you're the last person I want to talk to before I like go to bed. And that feels very real and particular to their relationship. And maybe he isn't much of a talker prior to bed. Maybe he's had a long day and maybe she's a little more chatty, right? And that's fine. And he's okay with that, right? They're okay with that, with bearing with each other's like faults or insecurities or just the small things, like the small rubs, because that's not essential. What's essential is the trust. I am here for you. You're here for me.
It's interesting because I do appreciate that. I think that statement of men and women can't be friends together because of sex was disproven within the movie itself. Like I appreciate that's something they lay down early on and then they show like, hey, we don't believe that's true. But I will say I don't love the ending. Do you like that they ended up together?
I would have liked it had they not ended up together, but I also liked it with them having ended up together, right? I don't think it was necessary. It's a believable outcome to me.
That's so interesting you say that because fun fact, everyone, Bob Reiner, the director, and then the writer Nora, I think was her last name or her first name, they originally had it where they don't end up together. And actually, Bob Reiner was in an earlier marriage, got divorced, and on this film set, he met his second wife, who he's married for the rest of his life until recently. Not because of divorce, but because unfortunately he passed away. But he met her on this set of When Harry Met Sally. I think she was like a production designer or something. She was something in the art department. But she was the one that actually convinced him and gave him the idea of like they should end up together. And he changed it. And he goes on, quote, saying like, we know it was the non-realistic thing. Like this is not realistic that these two would end up together, but we think it makes a better ending in the sense of what more people would want. Like When Harry Met Sally is one of the quintessential rom-coms, nostalgic feel-good movies from the 80s/90s. And I don't know if it would be that if they didn't end up together. I don't know if it would be that of a happy-go-lucky, fun-feeling movie if they don't end up together.
Yeah. I think that it would have been more interesting had they not ended up together. I don't think that it is beyond the realm of possibility that they would end up together either. I don't know if they would last. But I feel like at the very least, I could see them trying something and then them staying friends afterwards. I could see that.
I kind of want a remake, not a remake. I want a sequel of like When Harry and Sally Get a Divorce. That's the name of the movie. Like
When Harry
5
and Sally
years
get a
later.
divorce.
Yeah, because like, sure, is it like slightly realistic they get together? Sure. Is it realistic they stay together happy? Not at all. Not in my opinion. At the final scene of the movie where Harry runs down the New York streets and meets her at the New Year's Eve party, and she comes to him pissed because like this is like entering after an argument they had after they had sex, and she's like, Harry, I don't want anything to do with you. I think she even said I hate you, and then he's like, yeah, but I love you. I hate that I love you, and he says his big spiel. That whole time I was like, no, this movie's going to surprise me. It's going to end with her saying no. It's like the most obvious thing to do. They're done. They're not good for each other. And then when she's convinced and they kiss and yay, happy ever after, I was shocked. I really was like, wow. I did not. I think the directors did a good job of making me believe these characters cannot be together. And when they get together, I'm not rooting for them. I'm like, ugh, best of luck.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. I can't expect anything super subversive from this movie, knowing that it's considered by so many people the quintessential rom com. Like, if it had more of a reputation, um, as 500 Days of Summer, which is more of a direct subversion of the rom com tropes, but with this being as popular as it is, it has to have that happy Hollywood ending.
But and that's what I was saying earlier, like how I'm fine with them getting together. I just wished it was more believable. Because I think for me, the big issue is the beginning of the movie when they meet like twice when they're going from college to like New York, and then again they randomly meet in the airport. At the end of the day, Harry's just a dick. He's just unlikable, unpleasant, misogynistic dick. Does he have that like cult leader dickish charm to him? Yeah, I would say so. Doesn't make him any less of a dick. Okay, we confirmed he's a dick. We move on to like the second act when he gets married, goes through a divorce, they find each other in New York, and they actually become friends as they bond over his divorce and her breakup. I really like it. I genuinely think it's believable, especially as we start to learn more about him and more about her, how he softened over the years after going through the divorce. And we also learn because we kind of think she's too good for him. She's pritz and prammer and perfect. And not to say if you're not perfect, you deserve a bad person. I'm not saying that. We found out like she wasn't the pritz and prammery type of person we kind of thought she was to some degree. She's more willing to have fun with his jokes. Like when he's going like, I went on a date and said this really racist joke and the girl didn't laugh. How dare she? And then, Meg Ryan laughs. So the point is, in that second act, as they're hanging out more, we start to see they're genuinely compatible. And I believe that. I believe like, okay, yeah, he was a dick. He's grown up after the divorce. Sure, he's rough around the edges. I definitely think they're still compatible. Again, maybe not the healthiest of people, but I think the relationship could have worked. My issue is then they had sex, and that scene I just didn't believe. I did not believe the lead up to why they had sex, and then I was really frustrated with the aftermath of it because they have sex, and then Meg Ryan's character Sally, she's glowing. She's like, "Oh my goodness, this is so great. We're destined to be together. We're finally going to be together." And Harry freaks out. He's like, I don't know what to do. And he leaves and runs away. And I like that because that is in line with Harry's character. He's afraid of women. He's afraid of emotional commitment after the divorce and also knowing that he kind of doesn't have the best view of women and he's afraid he's going to fail again. So I like that he ran away. I think that's true to his character and good writing. But I don't like then that doesn't get resolved. They're just pissed off at each other. They don't really make up. They don't have a conversation of like, hey, I was really afraid and I was being insecure and a child for running away. And she doesn't have a conversation of like, hey, I was probably running into things and probably like kind of just gleaming over all of the red flags and just jumped into it. And then they don't talk about it at the party either. He just shows up and lists like, here are some cute things I like about you. Ha ha ha, isn't it so nice? And then she's like, I love you. I knew it. And so I guess get frustrated that I believe their chemistry and their genuine connection in the middle of the movie. And I like the confrontation, but I feel like there's no genuine payoff for the characters' makeup of that confrontation. And that frustrates me.
That's so fair. I feel like that would have made a longer movie for sure. I don't know. It's this interesting thing where what with this being like a story, I don't know. There's only so much you can show, right? And a lot of a movie has to be subtext, especially when you're keeping in mind like runtime. That isn't an excuse at all. But do you feel that perhaps like the subtext of his confession to her was
No, because in my personal opinion, I know movies aren't a perfect reflection of real life. They're escapism, they highlight the greatness, they highlight the sadness. So I'm not saying I need a one for one. And this is a specific thing for me in romance. I can get really frustrated for romance because I have a high expectation for loving your partner and your friends and family. And I think how Hollywood treats it is very childish and we buy into that. We buy into the Hollywood love and then go around expecting that. When we don't get it, we get frustrated, angry, sad, and hurt. And I just think it's childish for people to fall for it, in my opinion. And I was right along with them. Like I grew up watching all these sitcoms and these movies, and I thought that's what love was. And I grew up, not grew up in a sad sense. I was like, oh, I don't have the Hollywood charm. No, I grew up in like finding like love is commitment. Love is choosing to love someone day in and day out. and making sure they have a character, a moral character, and when they're failing, you come along and you stand up beside them. It's not all the cute little details about them. It's great. That's lovely. It is part of love. Take it. But Hollywood treats it as if it is the most quintessential part of love, and it's just not. Anyways, but my point of the story is no, I don't think subtext would work because there was such an affront to their relationship. There was such a betrayal that there needed to be a conversation. And I disagree with you. I don't think it was a runtime issue. I think you put Sally at the top of the roof. It's the same Christmas Eve party they were at in the middle of the movie. They were at the roof where there was less people. Put her there, have him run up there where it's quiet. And instead of saying the really cheesy, cute little details of what he loves about her, I love when your nose crinkles when you get mad at me. No, tell her that you ran away because you were afraid of commitment and you've been afraid of commitment your entire life. There's a great line that Jess says to Harry when Harry and him are at a football game. They're talking about the divorce. And Harry is like, I'm pretty sure my wife is cheating on me. And Jess has a great line where he's like, infidelity doesn't end marriages. It's always a root issue that leads to infidelity, which obviously is not an excuse for infidelity. But I agree with him. You don't usually just wake up one day and decide, I'm going to go sleep with another person that's not my husband or wife. There is something deep down that is causing that has been boiling up, that's not confronted. And so I just wish he had had that conversation with her. And then that would have given her genuine substance, genuine belief that this is a man of quality and character. I will give him a chance. And that would have been so much more satisfying to me. That would have completed his character arc, in my opinion. And so that's why I don't think it's an issue of runtime. I don't think it's an issue of subtext. I think when you have that big of a pitfall of a character sleeping with this woman and then running away after all of these years of kind of telling her that's what he'll end up doing, I feel like you have to have a genuine confrontation of whoa, what's going on here? I'm not going to just make up and kiss you and say I'm going to date you because you come along and say I'm pretty and say you like my walk, So that's my big gripe with the movie, how love is handled in Hollywood in general. But, how are you going to fix it?
Yeah. I mean, what movie does it right in your mind?
My wife and I were actually talking, because I was talking about this with my wife earlier, because we're talking about how they portray love. And neither of us could, I feel like I've seen instances where it's done well. But we couldn't think of a pure romance, kind of where a romantic relationship is at the forefront, that we really thought they did a good job. So that's why I do think, again, I think they do something. Some will do good in this area or in this area, but I can't think of one where I'm really genuinely impressed with how they handled the romantic relationship. I know, I'm sure they're out there. I also don't watch a lot of romance, so.
Yeah, no, that is an interesting thing. How do you? I'm sure it's possible to tell the story of a good, loving couple. You miss out on that juicy drama, though, right? If you don't have characters making dumb decisions,
No, that's not true. I don't have any issue with juicy drama and dumb decisions. I'm just saying I want to see how they make up. And often how they make up is not how a real relationship should be made up. Could there be a movie out there where it's just a loving couple who loves each other well from the beginning to end? I bet that could be made and could be good. But I agree with you. You need tension, you need drama. But I'm just saying I want the resolution to that drama to be substantial and how I think a loving relationship should be handled. And I just don't think we often get that because, and this is where I think it can get dangerous. And this is a big question I had going into this, after watching this movie. Why do people think so fondly of 80s and 90s rom-coms? Is it just because they had a good time with them? That's fine. I had a good time with this movie. But often I think people think to these movies and they forget how shitty the characters can be, and they start to replace that with just nostalgia. And then when they replace it with nostalgia, it just becomes this emotion of, yeah, that's what love is. It's this big emotion, this gesture, this feeling. And then we start to strip love down to an emotion and a feeling that you get to feel. And it becomes a very self-centered thing. And I think that's what rom-coms and sitcoms do. And I think it's dangerous.
The thing that I see the most when people fawn over 80s, 90s rom-coms is the fall colors, the cable knit sweaters, the cozy winter vibes, the film grain. It's all aesthetic aspects of these movies that move them the most, right? Coffee, books. It's sort of less about the romance of the characters and more about the romance of the life that they're leading. A romantic vision of, oh, I'm running a little bookshop in a cozy slice of New York. Here I am walking across these beautiful skyscrapers, enjoying these lovely views, and I'm surrounded by orange and yellow leaves. And
I think that is actually very, very valid point that people probably do get more enamored with the aesthetics of it than the romance. And this is the last thing I'll say on my soapbox, and then I'll get off of it. I I don't think that's like an issue. I think that's a beautiful thing, and it's one of the reasons I love this movie. The romanticized New York. That's fine. We as humans need to be able to know for ourselves. You know, you don't go watch the Purge and go, "Well, maybe I should go out and kill my neighbor." Like, you need to be able to distinguish fiction from what makes a good person. But I do think that's another thing you see all the time. Like, I'll point to women because rom-coms are more pointed towards women. Just how like with like action movies, I think can teach bad morals and lessons to men. But I do think sometimes we as humans get too caught up with aesthetic. I love aesthetics. It's great. But we almost put the aesthetic and vibe over context and pulp, the meat of something. We think our lives are lost because we don't have this big New York lifestyle. We start to less appreciate the real fall in our life, the beautiful oranges trees in your Tennessee and my Georgia. I think we start to appreciate them less because we think the aesthetic and the movie magic that they show in these movies is better that's in what's real life. And again, I'm not saying that movies need to necessarily change. I think it's more Americans that need to like realize and put up these certain boundaries of like, well, this is a movie and this is real life. And okay, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to get off my soapbox and now say, I love the vibe of this movie. I love the big bouncy curly hair. I love the cable knit sweaters. I love the fall. I absolutely love that. So I'm not saying they should change it because the aesthetic spot on.
My favorite outfit of hers was, I think it was a red
Oh, wait.
turtleneck.
That was going to be my question. I had
Yeah?
a big question I was going to surprise you with because you're the host, but this question came to mind. Like, this is a great question, but I was afraid you wouldn't have an answer, but you do.
Yeah.
My question was going to be, I mean, this movie is like fashion icon. Every scene they're wearing awesome, beautiful sweaters, jackets, pants, big flowy skirts. What was your favorite hair and facial hairstyle and outfit for both characters?
Yeah, okay. Favorite outfit of hers would be they're in the bookshop. She has like a red turtleneck with, I think it's a dark red blazer, these big glasses. I think she looks fantastic in that scene. And then as for his outfits, there's that one scene they're walking through a park and there are autumn leaves around them. And this shot is often used for the poster of the film. I think his outfit in that scene is pretty fine. I can't recall.
That's the best way to describe Meg Ryan, beautiful, gorgeous, this awesome thing. Billy Crystal, he's fine. Yeah,
He's fine.
He was there. He's fine.
No, I love his outfits, and I love that style, right? Thick sweaters and the like. But I don't know. I mean, women's fashion tends to pop more, right? They're willing to make use of bolder colors, and to that I say, guys, be a little more adventurous, right? I say that as one that very much likes muted greens and earthy tones, but yeah, that's my excuse for not paying attention to his outfits.
And why you have all of Meg Ryan's outfits memorized. No, funny enough, I had the exact same answer. Her sweater, and it's a brown kind of suede blazer she has on. Her glasses, it's the only scene she has the glasses on. And for me, I love when the hair's big and poofy. Big fan of that. Looks beautiful. And then it's the same scene. The scene you're talking about where they're walking in the park and it's on the poster. It's the same outfits they're wearing. He's wearing I don't think it's denim, but it's a dark, thicker, kind of cargo-esque dark blue button up. And then he has a brown suede jacket on over it. And he has the big thing for me with Billy Crystal's character, the beard.
The beard looks great.
He looks ugly without it. He needs the beard.
I think he doesn't look as refined or as handsome without the beard.
Freaking Sally has a line where she's like, "Oh, good, you shaved your beard. You look way better."
I can feel your cheek. No.
This is your lowest character moment in the movie, thinking this man looks good without a beard.
Biggest flaw. Because that thing looked
Biggest
clean, man.
flaw.
That thing looked clean, right?
Yeah.
He was well groomed. He uses beard oil. It smells nice.
He 100% has the vibes of like he is a Britain professor who's a complete asshole, like complete narcissist, which also fits his character. But like his outfits, like it looks like he would teach at like um what's the really famous one at Britain? Like really
Um,
fancy.
there's Oxford.
Oxford, yeah. It looks like he's an Oxford teacher and he's just like a dick through and through. Speaking of, I'm going to say one sentence and then we're going to move on. I watched The Holdovers over Christmas. Did not like it that much, which I know is a crazy statement because everyone loves it, but we're not going to dive into that hot topic now. If you guys want us to review The Holdovers so I can shit on it and you guys can then send us emails saying how I suck ass, email us at theholymomentpodcast@gmail.com and we can fight over the internet.
My two sentences on what you said. I agree in that I think it's overrated. That's sentence number one. Sentence number two. Similar to the nostalgia people have to the rom-coms of the 80s and 90s, I think it has to do with that 80s and 90s aesthetic with, the colors and the cozy winter vibes and the outfits.
I will say, you doing this with your hands really making me rethink my thoughts. It's really mesmerizing me. If I was a child, I'd be hypnotized right now.
Beautiful.
but anyways, sorry I had to steal the microphone from you there, Mr. Host. But I thought of that question. I was like, I bet Jeffrey would appreciate this fashion question, and also just like they look good in every scene. Well, let me re-say that. Meg Ryan looked good in every scene, but the costume designer did a great job because they did look good in every scene. Like those sweaters. Harry has a really beautiful, big, bright white sweater in one scene, and then a really nice dark knitted sweater in another scene. He reminds us of our friend Taylor. Our friend Taylor loves sweaters, and so yeah, remind me a lot of him. But yeah, so just the outfits, spot on. Love them.
But I want to say this too, right? Because we're sort of poking fun at Billy Crystal. I don't think he's like ugly or unattractive, right? But I think that it's cool that they're willing to have a man who is not like conventionally attractive, not Hollywood hot, be the star of this rom-com. I think that's cool, right? And I think I want to see more of that, right? Every rom-com that comes out, it's like the hottest guy or the hottest in the most boring sense guy you've ever seen, then hottest in the most boring sense woman that you've ever seen. Maybe that's disrespectful. I don't actually mean that, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean?
No, I mean they're just fitting like a cookie. That doesn't mean them not like they're still very attractive, but like you get tired of seeing the same person. It's not a real standard of not even beauty, just like the human anatomy and body. Who is the most overrated hot guy and girl in film?
Ooh, oh man. Oh, that's crazy. I don't want to step on any toes. I mean, granted, if I name an A-lister, then it's not like they're gonna see this and go
show up and shoot you. I'm not saying like you're saying they're a bad actor or anything. I'm just saying like you get tired of seeing the same type of like hot person. And you feel like their maybe attractiveness is carrying them a little more than it should.
I haven't seen Sydney Sweeney in much, but I've been getting the sense that might be.
I'm familiar with the name. I thought she was a musician.
No.
Oh,
She was in an American Eagle jeans commercial that
I did
a
hear
lot of
about
people
that.
were very upset with because she has good jeans and there was like a white supremacist connection.
Oh yeah, that's the one you have in your bathroom, right? Just like on the bathroom wall,
No, I have
if I remember correctly.
I have one of those frames. It's like a digital frame, and then the commercial is on repeat over and over. I have good.
It
jeans.
holds on every frame for like 30 seconds.
That's.
Well, there, beautiful answer.
But here's the thing: I haven't really seen Sydney Sweeney in anything, and so I can't really speak to her acting prowess. But as for guys, Henry Cavill's not really in any rom-coms. I think he's fine. Well, you have an answer.
I think for me, I don't know what it is. Guys with dark hair can always get away. Guys with blonde hair always strike me as like I'm the hot beach male model type guy. And I have nothing against this actor. I quite like him, but Chris Hemsworth. I think his like
Oh.
hot long hair, ripped body. Again, I have nothing wrong. Like he was Thor. That's why I got like famous in that movie, and he's very attractive. But I think like him and his type of body, I feel like wear on me a little bit of like, oh, you feel like a cookie cutter version of Chris Hemsworth. You feel like a cookie cutter of Chris Evans, of Glenn Powell, of yeah, all the blonde people.
Yeah. No, I mean, I see that. I see that.
That's why I like Leonardo DiCaprio. He's kind of weird looking. He kind of has an onion for a head.
Yeah.
Like he was kind of charming looking when he was younger, like Titanic and Catch Me If You Can. But the older he's gotten, he hasn't gotten more attractive, and I appreciate that. He's just a little weird dude.
Yeah, it's like the picture of Dorian Gray, where it's the story of this guy who sort of lives in perpetual youth because a picture ages for him. But not only does it age for him, the more debauchery he engages in, and the more immoral he is being, the worse off his picture looks, right? Now, I'm not saying anything about Leo DiCaprio, but he likes younger women. Perhaps he likes them a little too young.
I'm not saying anything about him. Goes on to say something about him.
No, I
That's
mean, there's
beautiful.
no value statements.
Okay. Well, go back and give me some value statements about this movie.
Yeah, value statements about this movie. Geez, where was I? I had things I was saying. Yeah, I feel like The Holdovers plays into a lot of the same aesthetics that carry movies like When Harry Met Sally. And aesthetically, it really does work. And hopefully, one isn't getting so lost in these worlds that they can't enjoy the world around them. What I would hope is in watching these movies, people would be inspired to go out and take pictures of the trees around their house, right? To explore their downtowns and find the beauty there. And I'm sure it has, right? I'm sure there have been plenty of filmmakers that grew up watching this movie and now are making new rom-coms. Maybe not in New York, maybe not in Chicago, but maybe more locally.
Aw. You're the Sally and I'm the Harry. You're the optimistic one, hoping people are growing because of art, and I'm the pessimistic one saying, they're becoming worse because of it. I don't actually think that.
I mean, I think that it's a it's a two-sided coin, right? You just have to be careful about how you consume art. You have to come into it with the understanding that what you're consuming is not reality as is. It's an interpretation of reality. It is reality that has been prettified in certain ways. So you have to take it with a grain of salt, but then you can also appreciate it aesthetically for what it is. And maybe try to view your own world as being a little more beautiful in light of it.
Yeah. Let art breathe life into you, into the world around you. Don't cram yourself and live vicariously through art. Is I think like a takeaway.
I've known people that have been overly influenced by rom-coms and TikToks that are talking about like, oh, this is the ideal relationship. If your partner doesn't do this, then you should get rid of them, right? And the people that are very impressionable lead less like fulfilled lives when they hold people to these impossible standards, right? I want this relationship. I want a man who will treat me in this way. You should have standards. I want to make that clear is you should be with someone that treats you with respect, that loves you. But if you're wanting to live a rom-com life, then that life is not going to be very fulfilling because this isn't a rom-com world.
Yeah. Don't take away from this movie that I want a guy like Harry. How many people are watching these rom-coms like, you know who I want? I want Harry. Harry Burns is who I want to meet in real life. I can't wait for him to belittle me in a car ride. Oh, it's going to be great.
I don't want people to come out of this movie thinking, oh, the most important thing is that he says the right words, the pretty words at the end of the movie. Like he makes me upset. And instead of apologizing, he brings me flowers. He shows me this grand romantic gesture, right? It's not about the gestures. It's about the communication. It's about the trust.
Flowers and great words are great. Not saying you don't need those, but first and foremost, you need a bedrock built on trust, respect, and like character quality. But that being said, something I do really love about the film, like I was saying earlier, I really like the dialogue. You know, if you asked me if I like the writing of this movie, I would kind of be like torn. Because I've already gone into the issues I have with the writing, as far as how I don't feel like they handled the climax and the resolution very well. But I really, really liked the dialogue. I thought it was witty. They had a lot of chemistry, but it was also poetic. But it wasn't poetic so much that it was up its own butthole. It was like a genuine, I could see a real person having that conversation. Like when Harry and Sally are starting to get to know each other after his divorce and her breakup, they're having this conversation about how hard it is to get over the person. And it's over the phone. He's talking to her over the phone, but it's a montage of them hanging out in the city. And he asked her, like, do you use the whole bed yet? And she's like, no, I still sleep on his side. And he's like, oh yeah, I've started using the whole bed. And that just is like, that's something I would never think of. Like, I hope people never have to think about that. I hope that never happens to them. But I'm like, that must be such a real thing, especially like, or like even the opposite, God forbid, like like your husband or wife dies, you're probably so used to. I mean, it was literally tonight. I finished making dinner and I walked into her bedroom to tell my wife dinner was ready. And she was on my side of the bed. And I was like, what are you doing there? Get off my side of the bed. So it's very much ingrained in you. So I just thought that was such a real conversation. How they had it was so organic. So I really, really liked the dialogue in this movie.
I think the thing that made these conversations feel real was that each came at it with a very distinct, very real perspective. And those perspectives weren't identical. And they weren't always in conflict necessarily, but they were strong positions. And when they did encounter tension, it was interesting seeing that tension explored in believable ways. They're talking about relationships after the big relationship. And she's gone on dates with people that she hasn't had sex with them. Whereas he's been on dates with people, he's not feeling all that connected with them, but he is having sex. And they're talking about he's critical of how she's handling it, and she's critical of how he's handling it. And that felt like a real conversation and a worthwhile conversation. And it fit them as characters that they would be duking it out in this particular way. And another good thing about that particular conversation, too, is he had said some very hurtful things. And after she had said her piece, he apologized. I thought that was a very strong moment. And it showed how far that their relationship had come. That he was willing to say, okay, I was a jerk there. I just want to apologize. And that's the note that I want to leave on.
I feel like that confrontation should have been a reflection of the end confrontation, with a little more hype and drama. But I also think that was more crux of the story. I really liked how, like you said, they had different positions on how each other was handling it. He was like, you're such a prude. You need to get out there. You need to go have sex with people. And to be honest, he wasn't, I don't think that like the subtext, I don't think that's the subtext he was saying. He wasn't like, go have sex with people. I think he was saying, and we see it later, he's so frustrated that she isn't processing her breakup with her like 3-year-long relationship. And so he takes it out on her by saying, you're a prude. You've hardened your heart. You're hiding in a shell. You need to go out there and have sex. And then she retorts with, sex isn't just a thing to be had. It's an emotional connection. But I do think she is deflecting a little bit. I think it's true with what she said and she believes it, but I do think it's a deflection of her not wanting to admit that I'm not going out there because I'm still hurt by my ex-boyfriend. And I think it was a really good, heated conversation. And like you said, he then apologized. And so I just wish I would solve that kind of at the end.
I wish that too. The more that we've talked about it. And even as I was like, saying my piece now, we should have had that at the end. I mean, I don't know why that wasn't the end.
I'm starting to realize my skill, and the reason I'm on this podcast is for Jeffrey to like the movie more at the beginning of the podcast, and for me to gaslight him into believing it's a worse movie, and then for me to rank it higher at the end of the episode than him, so I look better in the eyes of the audience. I'm going to gaslight you into giving this a 1.
That does consistently happen. But here's the thing, too. I think I gas up a film more during the podcast while also intending to give it a more measured rating at the end, too. I think I speak more highly of movies that I would rate mid.
I hate to see how you speak of movies that you rate highly. You just drag it across the concrete, and then at the end you're like, yeah, 5 out of 5, man.
Maybe that's the thing is like, I have to be hypercritical of these movies that are near perfect in order to find anything to talk about.
Have we found a movie that we just like glazed? There was no Dougal. Probably
Oh,
Dougal.
yeah. I mean, it's the pinnacle of art. Everything derives their artistic value in so much as it resembles Dougal.
Funny story about Dougal. TikTok is relatively lax with what you can post, but every once in a while I'll get like, hey, this violates our community guidelines for like violence. Because, maybe I'll put a reel where someone's being shot or like someone's being stabbed. I usually can appeal, and 99% of the time they're like, yeah, it's fine. There's only been like 2 or 3 that have been like, no, this violates our guidelines. It's too gory. One of the ones that violated it was a Dougal reel. So all I'm saying is, they know there's something evil in Dougal. Something ancient sleeps in them.
Was it the Dougal AMV?
I think it was the Dougal AMV.
Oh, that went hard. That's so tragic. They didn't want that to get to the people, because if the people saw it, then they would have.
They know, yeah, they know that a revolutionary revolt would have happened. It would have rised emotion, that Dougal AMV. But anyway, sorry, I keep sidetracking this episode.
No, it's. I love all these contributions.
Contributions, thank you. Very generous of you.
Moments of comedy that I really loved. That first diner scene, right? When she's talking about her ex-boyfriend, why it didn't quite work out, and the days of the week underwear, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And she's talking. There's no Sunday underwear. I tried to communicate that they just don't make it. And Harry's like, well, why don't they make it? She says, very straight face, like no hint of irony in her eyes, because of God.
Yeah, the deadpanness of it. Yeah, that really got me. I mean, also, we can't talk about this movie and comedy without talking about like probably the most famous scene in the whole movie, where Meg Ryan fakes an orgasm in front of like
Oh,
a whole restaurant of people.
Nathaniel, my secondhand embarrassment is so intense, right? It is so hard for me to watch cringe humor shows. Like the first season of The Office, I have to leave the room and sort of listen from. But there has to be a wall dividing me between me and the screen, right?
And Jeffrey's home alone during this. He's not like leaving it because other people in the room. He's watching The Office by himself, gets up and leaves.
Yeah. But I am watching this movie in my friend's studio apartment, right? And I am squirming, and I am like, I can't cover my eyes because I'm reviewing this movie, but it's rough. It's so rough. But
I loved, and weird. This is weird. One of the things that gave me the biggest like lenses into who Sally is, because again, I appreciate the more the movie goes on, you start to realize she's a weird person. She's a weirdo, and I like that about her. I love that she gets done faking her orgasm. Everyone is dead silent staring at her, and she doesn't get embarrassed. She's like, there you go. That's what you wanted. And then she goes on and eats her sandwich. And I really appreciated that about her character. I thought it was kind of like a badass boss lady moment.
it's a nice inversion also of the first diner scene where she stated something about her sex life very publicly, and people looked at her, and she was embarrassed, right? That showed some growth on her end. Apparently, she had had some good sex by that point.
And apparently we found out she's good with exhibitionists.
Yeah.
Just showing it all. But that's a really fun scene. I think, fun fact, the lady at the end, that the famous quote that says, I'll have what she's having after she fakes an orgasm, that I believe is the director's mom. Or maybe it's someone's mom from like the directing, producing team. And I think that's pretty fun. To cast your mom to an orgasm scene is pretty Chad of you.
How long ago was that? Was that
89 is when the movie came out.
No, or with the commercial, I mean.
The Hell's Mayonnaise commercial?
Yeah.
I think it was like 2-3 years ago. It was a NFL commercial where they redid the thing.
Well, I want to take a few moments because I'm thinking now about how tragic it would be if Rob Reiner's like mom outlived him, right? And so I want to take a moment to say that one of the reasons that we picked this movie to kickstart our 4th season, it's not just because it's a good movie for the new year. It's because Rob Reiner and his wife sadly passed away, as I'm sure many in the audience have heard, near the close of the year. And so we just want to honor his legacy by discussing the art that he has put out there. This movie that has inspired and influenced so many others, and so many people, brought a lot of enjoyment to them. So thank you, Rob Reiner. Rest in peace.
It's sad when anyone passes, but it is sad when someone who has created so much joy in the world. His movies, like The Princess Bride, A Few Good Men, there are just a lot of movies that they're so fun. But it was cool watching this movie. And also knowing a guy directed it. You know, I guess that would be interesting to know if like most guys directed rom-coms or if there were a lot of female directors back then. But yeah, it was sad. And weirdly enough, you know where I'm known the most for? Because it's one thing to like be connected to a director through their work, but it's interesting to see them as an actor. He had a reoccurring small role in New Girl. He played Jess's mom, the main character. Sorry, mom. Jess's dad, the main character's dad.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I really enjoyed his character from that, and so yeah, when I found out about his passing, it was very sad. And I'm happy I got to watch another movie by him, and I think he definitely he also was a huge activist. He was very vocal and played some hands at the California politics about bringing more rights to more people, and so he very much cared about people. It wasn't like he wasn't just an artist. He cared for the rights of humanity. I appreciate, and the world is better off because he lived in it.
I mean, everyone that knew him speaks highly of him, speaks of him as a standout guy. It's really tragic what happened. I don't know how much we want to like dive into that, but Nick Reiner, his son, allegedly, yeah, murdered Rob and his wife. The thing that makes it all the more tragic is there's a lot of love that Rob had for all of his children, like even to the end.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah, we're here to respect and honor his movies and the legacy he left behind. But if you want to go know all about what happened, you can go research that in your own time.
But with that being said, um, we've discussed this movie. Is there any thing that you want to note before we move on to our ratings? Or
Something I appreciated. I don't think it blew me out of the park, but I did like the cinematography for two reasons, mostly. I really appreciated its use of wide shots. I think in general, film doesn't appreciate the wide shot like it should. But especially rom-coms. Rom-coms are usually so fast edited, they're very quickly moving, and they don't take time with the slow burns. And if they do take time with the slow burns, it's always the romance. It's always the lady and the guy and the girl kissing and the big wide shot. But this movie deliberately took a lot of time and more character developing moments, and they did wide shots in those moments. Some wide shots right off the top of my brain is the beginning of the movie when they're on their car ride and they stop at that diner. They exit the diner and they're in a fight. I think about men and women can't be friends or something. And Harry's on one side of the car and Sally's on the other side, and they're like arguing over the car at each other, very physical. And you get this wide shot, and I think it tells a lot to the story. And then another wide shot I really liked was kind of entering into the second time jump. I think it was like another 5 years later. And now we have Meg Ryan or Sally with her two girlfriends, and they're eating brunch outside, and they're sitting at this table overlooking a river. And it's another wide shot, and it's just these females talking. No romance. They're talking about romance, but it's not like a guy and girl romantic moment. And so there's a lot of these wide shots. And so I really appreciate that about the cinematography. And then the other thing, which is a little more like generic with these type of movies, like Jeffrey said earlier, it's these aesthetics that pull us in as the audience. But I think they did a really good job with the color balance. Like this movie was through and through a fall and Christmas movie. They had heavy uses of orange, reds, and browns, and they balanced each other out. And then when they're in the city life, it was like blues and grays. And I just thought it was a very well balanced, nice film to look at. Also, just really small thing. When do you think this movie was released?
I'd say 1990s.
Well, but like the time of the year. When do you think they decide to release the movie in like the year calendar?
It would make the most sense for it to be released at around Christmas, New Year's time.
July. It was released in the middle of summer.
I had a feeling because if you were asking that question, it couldn't be an obvious answer.
Yeah, it just seems like such a weird
Yeah.
time to release it.
Same with Let It Snow. The song Let It Snow was written in July.
Yeah, it's just like this could have been a great fall release, a Christmas release, a New Year's release. July. Statistically, the furthest you can get from all of those months.
But maybe that's when people are like, man, it's so hot. I want it to be autumn already. I want it to be winter.
Maybe. I mean, hey, it was made on a $16 million budget and made $200 million. So who am I to say? But that's what I have to say about the cinematography. But another wide shot I really liked and a scene I loved, and then this will be the last thing I say. The scene where Harry and his friend Jess are at a football game. And there's this beautiful shot of them sitting in the crowd, but it's a wide shot. But what I love about it is how they filmed it is there was like a bunch of people in front of Jess and Harry. And you're like, well, obviously it's a stadium, but like they could have staged it where Harry and Jess were very obvious, the center of the composition. But they really staggered them like in between a bunch of people, making it very disorganized and chaotic. And it wasn't easy to track where they were. And I really like that wide shot because I think it adds to the juxtaposition of that scene. When we talked about There Will Be Blood, we talked a lot about how choosing a unique location can do a lot for the storytelling. Not always, sometimes you need a simple location, but I loved And There Will Be Blood, the end of the movie, was in this bowling alley. Very heavy juxtaposition to the Western movie we watched. In this movie, I love that they set this conversation at a football game. The football game, they're watching football. It's high energy. Everyone's cheering in the crowd. But Harry is telling his best friend Jess, I'm getting a divorce. His body language is drained, sad, and depressed, but he is forced to stand up and do the wave every like 30 seconds. So it's just a good way of doing physical and emotional juxtaposition between what a character is going through. And I thought it was a really, really well done scene.
No, I agree. It's the physical comedy of him like bearing his heart out to his friend Jess, and whoa, praising.
Yeah, and just his like complete apathy, his horrible apathetic towards the football game. So him like standing up and sitting down, he looks like a lifeless fish.
Yeah, it's like I don't care about any of this that's going on, but I will do the wave. I will do the wave.
Yeah. He could have sat. He didn't have to
Yeah.
stand.
I think that sometimes movies don't get creative enough with blocking, I feel. You're wanting to get so close to the actors that you're missing the space. And the space can be as much a character as the actor.
Absolutely.
Give us more camera movement. Give us more character movement. And it's more creative that way. It's more work on the part of the director to design a shot, right, that incorporates movement. And I think it gives the actor more to do as well. Perhaps you're not seeing every pore on their face. Perhaps the tears that are streaming from their eyes, we don't get to see it glisten in 4K. But movement can tell a story, and wides can tell a story, and composition can tell a story. And I like it when a movie leans into that.
That is beautiful. That is so well said. I don't watch movies to hear two people talking. I go listen to an audiobook. Film's greatest strength in a lot of ways is the medium of movement. It's what other mediums don't have. Audiobooks, podcasts, music, pictures, paintings, and in a lot of regards. And again, obviously, there's obviously time for the close up and the tighter shots of actors. Like obviously, not every movie should be a wide shot, but I completely agree. We do not utilize the movement in the space enough. Great observation.
As one that loves acting, I love my close-ups. I love my tight shots, right? But at the same time, you got to use them sparingly. You got to choose the right moments for it, right? And you can't do a close-up because you're too lazy to come up with something more creative. Well, with that being said, folks, we have come to the end of episode 1 of season 4 of the Holy Moment podcast. Pew, 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 pew.
Woo!
We did it, folks. Let's do holy moments, and then let's do the rating. Nathaniel, do you have your holy moment prepped?
I do. And for this one, it is a scene I loved. I was just praising the movie for taking time. And this scene, I think, is the quintessential of they took time. I think it's the scene that characterized our characters so much. It sets them up in this new stage of life. It's the scene after, again, they're starting to get to know each other in their middle of life, kind of their mid-30s. Harry went through the divorce, Sally went through the breakup, they're alone in New York, and they start becoming friends. Unsuspected friends. And that was one of my favorite part of the movies. Before they like get into the fight about sex, I really liked them just enjoying each other's presence. It was really cute, and again, it was believable. I believed it. And for me, the quintessential part came when they were on a shared phone call and we get a split screen and they're both laying in bed and they're both watching the end of Casablanca and they're just kind of talking. They're just shooting the shit. They talk for 5 minutes and they hang up and go to bed. But what was said in those 5 minutes, I think, was really impactful to their character. But not only that, it was their ability to sit in genuine silence that I don't think a lot of movies would do, let alone a rom-com. So I think it was a really bold choice that the choices like this that made the movies better. And what I mean by that is it shows us again that Harry is more negative. He sees the worst in things. He's like, I probably have a tumor. I need to go to the doctor. He's like, Sally, you're really high maintenance. He's always bringing up the worst about people. And then Sally is like, no, you don't have a tumor. I'm sure it's nothing. And she's like, I'm not high maintenance. I just know what I like. She's always seen the positive in everything. But what I really love and where I think it shines is right before they hang up, Sally's like, what are you going to do if you can't go to bed? He's like, I'll probably just sit here and groan. I'll probably practice now. And he starts groaning. And it's a joke. And she's like, haha, hangs up. But then we get like 35 seconds of her like getting in, like snuggling up in bed, smiling, and his joke of a groan, like he is saying a joke to a friend. The friend hangs up, and now he's left alone, and that turns into a uh, it turns into a genuine sadness because he wasn't lying to her. I'm going to hang up and I'm going to groan because I'm depressed right now. I'm going through a divorce. I am alone. And then we just sit with him groaning for like 20 seconds and it's uncomfortable. And I loved it. It felt like an art house in that moment. Again, I'm not saying you gotta do the pie eating scene from Ghost Story for 8 minutes straight, but I love that they let us sit. It's like the filmmaking term in Japanese, ma, where you just sit with a character or you witness something that does not progress the plot forward, but it brings you into the world. And I think that's what that moment did. And I thought it was beautiful. And it really, I thought it moved me in a way.
No, I also felt very moved by that moment, by that scene. It reminds you that these are real people, that these fictional people are real people. I felt in that moment, more than I'd felt at any other moment, that these people do not know that there's a camera on them. It's like they've hung up, and they believe that they're in the privacy of their homes, and we're there. We're just witnessing that, right? And he's groaning, and she's going to bed. And they feel real.
Yeah. I feel like Bob Reiner did a great job of creating real characters that were also whimsical and fun to watch. And that's impressive to do.
My holy moment would have to be, it would just have to be the characters. This is one of those broad idea holy moments. But Sally and Harry, they felt like people I would meet and befriend, right? And have real gripes with, but also still care for. They had quirks, they had idiosyncrasies. The actors made acting choices that were understandable and comedic and heartbreaking. And one of my favorite moments, in fact, was when she's crying to Harry about her ex, who's marrying this person that he's met, what, like a month ago, 3 months ago, and he's joking with her. He makes some clever comment, and in the midst of her crying, right, she sort of laughs, right, and then she resumes crying. That was such a strong acting choice, but it felt so believable for Sally. I saw Sally doing that. It wasn't Meg Ryan. That's my holy moment. Is thank you, Rob Reiner, for bringing these characters to life. Thank you, Nora Ephron. Thank you, Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal. These people felt real.
I know earlier I was riffing on it for like over nostalging things and skewing what romance really is. But I get why it is people's comfort films. And it's not people's comfort films for all bad reasons. Like these were real characters that had some shitty decisions that happened, but don't we all in real life? We all make bad decisions at some point. But how they kind of mucked through it with a certain amount of joy and floating around in happiness was really nice to watch.
With that, I'll give it a 3.5.
I mean, hey, we're coming out this season swinging because I'm going to give it a 3.5 as well. We're on the same wavelength. I don't think it ever was going to be a 4 or 5 for me. But again, I think if they fixed the issues I had, a better resolution to the climax, I think it would have been like a 3.8, that's high. That's a good rating. But instead, it'll be a 3.5 for the great dialogue, the good performances, the amazing comedy, and the great aesthetics.
Yeah, beautiful dialogue. I also just love that it's stretched out, right? The movie is stretched out. It's not contained within the span of a week or a few days. And say what you will about the romance, whether or not they should have ended up together. If they were going to end up together, it should be at the end of like a 10-year period of having known each other.
Simple choice in filmmaking, but honestly bold choice in filmmaking. You might not think it, but it's unconventional, especially for the rom-com, which was a pretty structured, this is how you do rom-coms. Very bold. I really appreciate that about the filmmakers. It felt fresh.
And it's what, like 30, 40 years later?
Yeah, it still feels fresh for that. It doesn't feel dated, which is nice. It doesn't feel dated.
I wonder what that says about current rom-coms.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch rom-coms.
I don't either.
I don't think there's anything worse than a genuine comedy. Can they be done? Yes. Are they 99% of the time done horribly? Yes. Oh my gosh, I hate comedies.
Ooh, that's gonna be one of your picks then for the category of this isn't my type. What was the name of the category?
Not my cup of tea.
Not my cup of tea.
That's a good transition into new season, new categories, guys. Not my cup of tea is not a new category. That might be next season. But we got some new categories, and guess what? first time ever for the Holy Moment podcast, we officially have a category suggested by a different human being other than Jeffrey and I. Was that category my sister-in-law? Maybe. But I told all my family members because they were all like, I'll give you a suggestion. I was like, no. Unless you send us an email or leave us a comment on our social media, you cannot just tell it to me in person. Otherwise, that's cheating. And my sister-in-law took it to herself to go find a reel and suggest this category. And she did it for the Sky High. We made a reel where I was pleading with the audience to let me watch Sky High for this season. And so my sister-in-law commented saying one of the categories should be 2000s Disney movie. So any Disney movie that came in like the early 2000s. So like not Marvel and all the stuff they're doing now, but like classic Disney Channel, like kind of Disney movies. But you're the host. Do you want to go through the categories? You want me to?
You can go through the categories.
Okay, beautiful. Let me pull them up. I got them right here. Okay, guys. New season, new categories. I'm really excited. If you're new to the Holy Moment podcast, we have 6 categories. Each of us pick a movie per category. So that's 12 movies in total. 1 episode per week. So that's 12 weeks, roughly 4 months. So we roughly do 3 seasons per year. And we always have 2 of the same categories. We have wild card, which is just whatever you want it to be. So it's just like a chance to pick what movie you want to talk about. We have Vegas pick. For those of you who don't know, at the very beginning of the podcast, we had a third co-host, but he had to drop out for busy. He's a busy dude. But he picks weird movies. He has a great sense of like artsy kind of movies. So he always picks weird movies. Granted, he also picked Dougal last time, so he just picks odd movies. So we always ask him, hey, what should we watch? But this season, we have 4 new categories. I told you one of them is early 2000s Disney movies. Thank you, Ava, for the suggestion. My other pick was fashion icon. So any movies that we feel like influence fashion in the film or just in real life. Jeffrey's 2 picks were in the running for Oscar. So the Oscars actually aren't going to be, the nominations aren't released until like 2 weeks from now. So we could pick a movie that we think that's probably going to be in it because it's usually pretty obvious what are going to be nominated in the Oscars, but we cannot actually decide for like 2 more weeks. And then he also did film noir. So those are our 6 categories: wild card, Vegas pick, fashion icon, early 2000s Disney movie, in the running for Oscar, and film noir. Jeffrey hosted this episode. So we're going to spin a wheel and we're going to see which category I'm going to pick for next week. And how's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Beautiful. I'm excited. It cannot be my in the running for Oscar because, again, we don't know for sure. I put Hammett because I want to watch Hammett, and I'm 99.9% sure it will be a nominee for
I'm
the
in
Oscar.
the same boat. I really want to watch Hamlet. But it'll be your category.
Is that what you put down?
No, it's not what I put down, but I'm excited.
Okay. Especially after, I'm not saying it's like the same, but especially after really liking Little Women. I really want to relive that high from last season of Little Women. But here we go. I'm so excited about all my picks. Okay. Well, now we got to re-roll because it's freaking Hammett. and we can't do, because Hammett's not even like on streaming available yet. So we will come back to that later in the season. So let us re-roll.
I'm wanting Sky High.
Sky High? But I feel like we got to say that for a little bit later. Oh, okay. Classic. This is a good one. I'm wondering if you've seen this. The Grand Budapest Hotel.
I've not seen it.
Okay, good. This is for iconic fashion. I just feel like we haven't done a Wes Anderson film, and I feel like nothing better than when we're talking about fashion and style. I feel like he's kind of the king of that when it comes to directors, and so I'm really excited. And I will say, I'm actually not a big Wes Anderson film lover, so I'm excited to give this one a rewatch because this is probably my favorite one I've seen, but I haven't seen this one since I was like 14. So I'm excited to give it a rewatch after going through film school and having more opinions about movies to see if my opinion of Wes Anderson still stands or if I really like this movie.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see it. So for my pick for fashion icon, it might be another Paul Thomas Anderson movie just to keep the trend going.
Was it Phantom Threads? I almost put Phantom Threads, but I was like, we can't do another PTA and Daniel Day-Lewis movie, surely.
Well, I mean, I'll think about it. It's that one, and then
I have no issue with it.
I might have an issue with it. It's a weird movie. I have seen it before, but
oh really? Oh, I've never.
I mean,
seen
I don't
it.
dislike it. I think it's a good movie, but it's a weird movie.
Oh well, let's. We don't always do this, but let's talk about it. I'm excited about my picks. Tell me, do you have your picks solidified?
I don't have them all solidified, so.
Oh, lame, Jeffrey. Okay, well let me tell you my picks. So, for Wild Card. I've been meaning to do this movie since the beginning of the damn podcast, and I keep forgetting. Also, I'm cussing a lot in this episode. I don't know why. I apologize. The Train to Busan, which is a Japanese horror zombie movie action kind of flick. I have a funny story about it, but I'll tell it when we get to that movie. But I've really been wanting to watch this for a long time, so that's my wild card. My fashion icon was Grand Budapest Hotel. My in the running for Oscars Hammett. The early 2000s Disney movie is Sky High, which I'm so excited to talk about. I thought Sky High was like a Fever Dream Me movie, which it is, but I rewatched it in film school. Kind of slaps. Kind of slaps. And then for Jeffrey's category of film noir, I had a hard time. There were so many classics I could have picked from. And I want to continue to the podcast has made me liked older black and white movies more and more. I appreciate them more and more. So I really wanted to go down that route. But I was like, I'm sure Jeffrey will pick a more classic film noir. And so I picked a movie that I really also wanted to watch for the podcast. And just in general, it's been on my watch list forever. Prisoners. Have you seen Prisoners?
I have not, no.
It's Hugh Jackman and I believe Jake Gyllenhaal, I think are two leads. And it's a psychological, I think a really like mind-deaf type of movie. And so really excited for it. And I would say, again, I know very little about the movie, but I think the closest tonal movie I can think of is Gone Girl. You've seen Gone Girl, correct?
I have not, no.
Well, we gotta do it for the podcast, but you just gotta watch that movie because that movie's crazy. Great movie. And then Vegas Pick. If you're around last season, we actually had to bump Vegas Pick to this season because we ran out of time before Christmas break for us. So it's still Vegas Pick from last season, which is Emmanuel, which is a documentary. So we got a wide breadth of what's going on this year. Or this season.
Well, I'll say the ones that I do have solidified. I'm just gonna go ahead and put Phantom Threads.
I mean, I love Daniel Day-Lewis. This is our third Daniel Day-Lewis and third PTA film for the podcast, and I'm a big fan.
Is it a third for Daniel Day-Lewis?
We've done
Lincoln.
We did Lincoln, and then we did There Will Be Blood, and now
it
Phantom
will be
Threads.
cool to have said, hey, like we've seen nearly all of Paul Thomas Anderson's films. How many directors can you say you've done that for?
That's I think the only other really big one is Licorice Pizza.
And so there's Phantom Threads for iconic fashion, Double Indemnity for film noir, which is a classic.
I almost picked that, and I was like, I bet Jeffrey will pick that. No joke. I really thought you would pick that.
Yeah, I did pick it, and I have seen it, and it is a great time.
Did you tell me? I think you brought it up on an earlier episode.
I think so.
Okay, I'll just forget everything you told me, which I honestly do.
Okay. And then Oscar runner-up, I have not seen Bugonia. I really want to see Bugonia. That's one with Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone, where she plays a CEO, and she's been kidnapped by two people that think that she's an alien. And I think that the twist of the movie is that she is, in fact, an alien. But, like, in the trailers, I think that we're given to believe that this is insane and she's terrified for her life. That's where I think it's going to go. I have no reason for thinking this beyond my own suspicions.
Okay, I'm excited because I don't want to watch that movie. And so I'm excited that I'll be forced to watch it. Not forced, but like I'll get to watch a movie that I'm not. It's not because I have like any issue with it. I just like I remember seeing the trailers over and over again, and it never hooked me. So I'm excited. I don't often watch movies that I have no interest in, so I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting premise, and I'd also really like Jesse Plemons, or I want to see him more in things. He's one of those weird-faced actors that is really good, and they're just like unique looking.
A nice way to say ugly actor. No, I'm kidding. Jeffrey, tell me who is the ugliest actor that you hate. Just kidding. So that means the only one you haven't picked, you haven't picked Wild Card or 2000s Disney movie, early 2000s Disney movie.
Early 2000s Disney movie. I mean, Finding Nemo might be basic, but I also just love that movie.
I haven't seen Finding Nemo in years, so I'd be down to rewatch
Finding Nemo. And then I'll figure something out for Wild Card. It might be The Apartment, but maybe two black and whites would be.
I mean, hey, I didn't do a black and white in mine, so you know.
Well, they're the same director, same writer as Double Indemnity.
Oh, really? Oh, well, double it down.
Well, we'll see.
That was bad.
We'll see. Well, with that being said, folks, you can find us at the Holy Moment Podcast at gmail.com. If you want to send us an email, give us some feedback, some comments on this episode, past episodes, future episodes. Engage with us. We want to engage with you. You can also find us on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and we may not be much longer for Facebook, but You can find all of our old reels there. Well, with that being said, thanks for showing up for this season premiere. Stick around till the season finale. We love you. We miss you. And am I gonna say it? Stay holy.
You had a whole month. You had a whole month to find to come up with a better ending for season 4, and I'm not going to allow you to ruin the consummation of season 4 with "Stay Holy." So until Jeffrey finds a better ending tagline to our podcast, I'm just going to end it with I don't know. This is day 1 of me asking Jeffrey to post feedback on the Holy Moment podcast social.
Day 1, and tomorrow consider it day done.
Well, now I need to do closing then. Well, until next time. Bye.